Hello, Gary. Welcome.
Hello, Michael, and how
How
lovely
lovely
to see
to
you
see you
today.
today.
It's an absolute pleasure and honor, Gary. Thank you so much for giving your time today. And we just a little special mention to our brother Nicky Hamid, who set this up and connected us for this today. So I'm really appreciative to him and appreciative of you of your time. And it's beautiful. It looks very very green and lush behind you there today.
Oh, it
Oh, it
certainly
certainly
is.
is. I mean, I think we're into
The
the
third or
third or
fourth
fourth
day
day
of
of
spring.
spring.
Spring has
Spring has
sprung
sprung
in
in
NZ.
NZ.
So
So
we're
we're
looking
looking
at
at
beautiful
beautiful
blue
blue
skies out
skies
there
out there
behind me,
behind me,
and of
and of
course
course
the
the
backdrop of the
backdrop of the
forest,
forest, on
which
which
we
we
live
live
on
on
the
the
edge
edge
of
of
this
this
forest.
forest.
Yes, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. So we're going to begin with, for those who don't know you, we'd like to hear a little bit about your journey and how you got here and all of the wonderful things that you're bringing into this world, and just a little bit of background of you, and let's see where it takes us from there.
Oh,
Oh, that's
Big
a
question.
very
a
good
very good
opening,
opening,
Michael.
Michael.
That gives
That
me
gives me
lots of
lots of
scope.
scope.
So
So
2 or
two or
3
three
hours
hours
later,
later,
we'll
we'll
get
get
on
on
with
with
the
the
show.
show. No,
No,
no.
let's be
Let's be
serious.
serious.
I
I
guess
guess
that
that
as
as
I
I
intimated
intimated
to
to
you
you
when we
when
were
we were
chatting
chatting
earlier
earlier
on,
on,
just
just
into
into
my
my
82nd
82nd
year.
year.
So
So
I'm
I'm
quite
quite
excited
excited
about
about
all
all
this
this
and
and
age
age
and
and
things,
things,
but
but
of
of
course,
course,
also
also
it
it
gives
gives
us
us
time
time
to
to
be
be
introspective
introspective
and
and
to
to
look
look
back
back
and
and
to
to
sort
sort
of
of
look
look
at
at
milestones
milestones
in
in
one's
one's
life. And
life. And
so
so
I
I
guess
guess
that
that
for the
for the
long
long
lifespan, we
lifespan,
have
we have
lots of
lots of
milestones.
milestones.
And
And
a
a
lot of
lot
them
of
are
them are
so
so
important
important,
and
and
they
they
are
are
life
life
changing.
changing.
They
They
help to
help to
shape and
shape and
form
form
us
us
as
as
humans
humans,
and
and
also
also
help us
help
to
us to
develop
develop
spiritually.
spiritually.
And
And
I
I
guess
guess
that
that
one
one
of
of
the
the
biggest
biggest
things,
things,
although I
although I
should be
should be
very
very
careful
careful
what I
what I
say here
say here
because my
because my
wife is
wife is
sitting
sitting
in the
in the
room with
room
me
with me
listening to
listening
all
to
this
all
and
this and
enjoying it.
enjoying it.
And I
And I
must
must
say that
say
when I
that when I
first met
first met
her
her
we got
we got
married
married
55 years
55
ago,
years
that
ago,
was a
that was a
big, big
big
thing
thing
in
in
my
my
life.
Wow.
life.
And
And
just
just
acknowledging
acknowledging
that.
that.
But
But
I
I
guess
guess
that
that
back
back
probably
probably
about
about
1972,
1972,
73, I
73,
had
I
what
had
is
what is
known
known
as a
as a
near-death
near-death
experience.
experience.
And that
And
sort
that
of
sort of
way I
way I
went
went,
and
and
I was
I was
brought back
brought
and
back and
resuscitated,
resuscitated,
etc.
etc.
But
But
that
that
was
was
a
a
life-changing
life-changing
thing
thing
for me.
for me.
And I
And I
guess what
guess
it
what it
did, it
did,
just
it
sort
just
of
sort of
opened up
opened up
things
things which were
had been
had been
simmering
simmering
inside me
inside
for
me
a
for a
long
long
time,
time,
endeavouring
endeavoring
to
to
find a
find a
spiritual
spiritual
purpose
purpose
in
in
one's
one's
life. I
life. I
had
had
delved
delved
into
into
Buddhism
Buddhism
and
and
other
other
Eastern
Eastern
religions
religions
and
and
beliefs
beliefs
prior
prior
to
to
that,
that,
but
but
not
not
going
going
anywhere.
anywhere.
So
So
I
I
guess that
guess that
experience
experience
opened up
opened
things
up
to
things
me,
to me,
not with a
not with a
great big
great big
boom and a
boom and a
bang, and
bang,
this
and
is
this is an
incredible
incredible
revelation
revelation
like a
like a
bomb
bomb
exploding.
exploding.
No, this
No,
is
this is
something
something
which
which
just
just
helped me
helped me
to
to
evolve,
evolve,
no
no
doubt,
doubt,
and
and
develop
develop
as
as
years went
years went
by.
by.
And this
And
is
this is
still an
still an
ongoing
ongoing
thing.
thing. I often hark back to that experience and not trying to read any more into it because only so much occurred with that experience as you go down the tunnel and you hear the music and see the lights, and then you're called back by the doctor saying, I think we've saved him. I think he's going to come around. So that was one of the defining moments. But I guess that for any of us in our lifetimes, it is moments of trauma and drama that bring forth these inner feelings and these passions and emotions, and even seeking an understanding. And sometimes we can find an understanding from drama and trauma. So it doesn't have to be a near death experience, it can be anything in our lives which just suddenly occurs and just opens another doorway. So to that end, over a long period of time, Raymond and I entered into business. We're in the business world. We were actually, in all things, we were involved in show business, and we used to do children's theatre. We did this for over 20 years in Auckland City. And so that was an involvement there, and it gave us a great outlet for creativity and also to be involved with thousands upon thousands of children and entertaining them over a long period of time. Then, of course, there came a time where I had a little more time to myself, and Raymond and I discovered that there were things within the landscape of New Zealand that were very special. And this came about when we started to look into the early history, the early comers of this land. And so Raymond and I travelled extensively throughout the North and South Island, going to what can be called places of special interest, which some people may call sacred sites. And we found that by looking at these things and writing about them, I was writing a series of magazine articles for 12 years for a New Zealand magazine. And of course, it was just like a big diary of where we went and what we did. But this opened up us to all sorts of potential. There was more to this landscape of New Zealand than just the sheer beauty of the mountains, the rivers, and the forest and the seascapes. There was an energy within the landscape, and it pervades right through the landscape. And I came to this recognition by the fact that when we traveled to significant places, when I say significant, they were revered, or they were tapu to Maori people. There was something occurred there which made them very, very special. So we visited these places with respect, and some places we were introduced to. We experienced the land, and I often used to find when I was doing my sort of amateur archaeological work and looking for traces of earlier people, working away quietly by myself for doing some measurements and compass bearings and taking photographs, I'd be aware of the fact that something was looking at me, something was behind me, something was on the edge of the forest keeping an eye on me, and of course I just whip around and have a look and never see anything, but always had this feeling that you're never alone when you were alone. Okay, so this was something which grew over a period of time. And so this was an involvement which was wonderful. It wasn't just a big bang like that, as I said. It was just evolved beautifully and in harmony with what we were doing in the workaday world, and making progress there and working in a field that we liked, but also expanding ourselves spiritually. And also the fact I was blessed to be able to write for, as I said, for the magazine, share all this, share all my discoveries as I went. And it's much the same as, Michael, that you do with what you present today and what you bring together. And it's a matter of putting it out there continuously. These are things that we just don't find are great secrets and we keep inside here. I'm not going to tell anybody. Or I allude to things that I know and you don't know. So we just let it all out there and tell everybody about it. So consequently, we became very interested in the Patupaerehi, or the Turehu, and these are the mythical fairy folk of the forests of New Zealand. Those are Maori names, Patupaerehi and Turehu. And these are, I think, very much the beings that were watching us as we walked through the forests, as we climbed the mountains, and they're always there. And in the early days, not being actually aware of who or what they were. So this developed, and of course this developed to a point where I started to collect stories from people out there of encounters they were having with little people. When I say little people, people who are about 3 or 4 foot high. We're not looking at little elementals or little flying fairies or winged fairies. We're looking at people who looked a little like children walking through the forest or running across the paddocks and the grasses. And so I accumulated stories, and I thought, wow, there's more to this than meets the eye when we're getting so many people sharing these stories. And then, of course, we formulated the idea of doing a documentary, The Voices from the Forest, which was to take us and a small film crew into the forest areas of New Zealand and see if we could actually capture something on film. So this was very exciting. And I also took the bull by the horn, so to put it, and in the areas that we were working mainly, which is the northern part of the North Island, where the massive kauri forests are, I put advertisements in 4 regional newspapers or local newspapers up there. And it was I was straight to the point. I just sort of said who I was, and I was going to do a documentary on the fairy folk of the forest. if any of you have any stories of encounters that you've had in the forest or anywhere, please write to me. So we got responses, which was quite amazing. But I know for a fact that local people in certain areas out there were really scratching their head, wondering what on earth this guy was doing, and what the hell was you doing talking about fairy folk? Wow. Anyhow, great stories came from there, and so those were form part of the documentary. So this started to really consolidate, and then we started to see that there was just so much more in the way of life within the landscape. It's what I call the unseen realms, the parallel realms, where these people are right alongside us continuously. But there's such a big range within these folk. I mean, they are those that look like elven people, I guess, and as I said, they're 3 to 4 foot in height. Then there are others who are bigger and smaller, and others who appear to some like goblins and trolls and things. So all of these descriptive phrases we get from around the world fit seen in various places in this land. But we also have an interesting thing here. We have an underlay or an overlay, whichever way you like to look at it, of the guardians of this land, which are the spirits of the ancestors who've departed over a long, long period of time. And often in the Maori tradition, they're well aware of the spirits of ancestors still exist as guardians in places which are special. And so we have had encounters with the guardians in certain places, and usually quite challenging in a way, because why are you here? What are you doing? Or why have you come here? Not always directly to me. I'm just not that sensitive, but I've been blessed by having the company of lots of people who are clairvoyant and very, very open to these messages, and they've been able to convey them to me. So I was looking at the balance here. We've got spirits of ancestors as guardians of the landscape. Then we have the fairy folk. That's another realm right alongside humans. And then we have the elemental beings who are there. And as we know, they refer to plants and everything that grows, but also every animal and also every human. Every human has an elemental being working with it. And I often think that there may have been a crossover here during medieval times when the organized church and religion came on the scene, and pagan beliefs like fairies and elementals and things like this were suddenly transmogrified into being angels rather than fairies. So we have guardian angels in the religious sense, but I like to think we have guardian fairies. So there we are. I don't think there's much difference in a way. It's just terminology. So therefore, that opened up all sorts of things for us, and one becomes more and more sensitive not only to those unseen realms, but to what you are seeing in the landscape with the naked eye. You are aware of the forest. You suddenly become more aware of the tree, the plant, the grass, the toadstool, the mushroom, the birds, the clouds, the mountains, the sea. Everything takes on a different vibration or a different meaning. And suddenly you find, as I did, and I still am, becoming more and more interpretive. I will sit now and look at symbols and signs, and this is an ongoing thing. And as you know, Michael, we can all sit out on the hillside on a lovely day and look at the clouds scudding across the sky, and look at all the shapes and forms which come in the clouds, and say, oh, look at that bird, or look at that big panda bear up there, and they come and they go. Likewise, we can see the same in the gardens and in the forests with the shadows, and as the breeze will ripple the leaves and you see things moving. I was filming something the other day which was a small flower blossom had fallen off a tree up the back here, and it got hooked up in a spider's web, and it was dangling, and it was a breeze which was imperceptible to me. I couldn't feel it, but I knew it was a breeze, and this thing was dancing, swinging around on the end of the little spider's web up and down. It was going like this, and I'll stop and look at it, and I was filming it. I was so entranced. So as you know, Michael, this entrancement goes on forever once you become involved in nature.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Wow. And I can just your voice just transports me there. The way you describe that just transports me. I'm right there with you, and I can feel like that magic. I can see the reason why you are sharing what you share and doing what you do is because it's so embodied within you, this magical childlike. I think like Nikki as well is like you have this childlike wonder and curiosity that I don't think has ever gone away. It doesn't feel like it, and to live life like that, I think that's why you look belie your years. You don't look or sound like you've been here for that like the time. I think that childlike curiosity and wonder is just it just shines through. What I would love to take go slightly back a little bit is to that near death experience because we've had people on before sharing their near death experience. So that was in 1973, I think you said, early 70s.
Yes. Yeah.
Before that, were you open? Because I think it'd be interesting to people because before that, were you having experiences? Were you open to those experiences or did it all begin with that near death experience?
No, that's interesting. I guess my spiritual odyssey and just seeking a way had begun probably when I was in my early 20s. And as I said earlier, I became interested in other ways and other spiritual paths. And this is right way back in the late 50s, or early 60s, I heard about Buddhism. And so I went to the local library in the little town that I lived at in South Auckland. And I said, what have you got in the way of books on Buddhism? I said, oh, what's that? Okay. So they got on their file and said, oh, we can get a book from the library in Wellington and they'll mail it up and we'll hire it, lend it out to you. So this book arrived. I thought, this is going to be good. This is going to open up something for me, right? But it was a beautiful illustrated book. And what it was someone's photographic odyssey through the Himalayas and all over India and down through Southeast Asia, taking photographs of Buddhist temples and things like this. So I never got into the Buddhism side of things, which is intriguing. But then I came across some books by a man called Evan Wentz and things like this. So I read a little, and then of course become involved with the everyday workaday world, and got married and started to raise a family and getting on in the world and being busy. Things were just sort of put on hold. There was something there, but it just was not being openly explored or even read about until the near-death experience. And this came about in an interesting way. Raywin and I had we've done a lot of things. We've been what people call entrepreneurs, I suppose, in the worldly sense. And we'd taken on a small general country store, which was a grocery store, in the middle of a coal mining town in the south of Auckland there. And we were running this little grocery shop, not all that successfully. We weren't meant to be grocers, but we gave it a go. And one Friday evening, we closed up the door, and it was, I forget what time of the year it was, but it was probably a long evening. And I was standing outside the shop under the veranda there, talking to three local men who just pulled in their car there. We're chatting away. And then, as you would have it, a bee fell out of the rafter on the roof, fell onto my neck and stung me on the back of the neck. Now, I had realized that previously I had bee stings many years before, and I knew I could be in trouble because sometimes I'd almost fainted. So we immediately got on the phone to try and phone a local doctor at the next village up, but she was away and not available. And by then I was starting to get a bit woozy, and Raywin was phoning around, and we managed to contact a doctor in a town which was about 12 or 15 miles away. And he said, bring him quickly, and I'll meet you at the doctor's surgery. So these guys, I remember them bundling me into the back of the car, and that's it. I became oblivious to anything. So the journey was made over this long, tortuous country road. And by the time we got to the doctor's, I'd stopped breathing. I'd stopped everything, as you do, you evacuate certain systems within the body. I'd done all that. I'd purged, and I was clinically dead. I'd stopped breathing completely.
Wow.
So these guys managed to get me in, carry me in, and put me in the doctor's room out the back there. And this is unbeknown to me because I was on my journey. And I was going along this tunnel, and it was colourful. There was music. I don't know what type of music, but there was sound there. But I was also aware of the fact there was a being on my right side who was there as a guide and was going down this tunnel, which kept curving all the way, all the time, round to the right. There was no end to it. And it was just so beguiling and so incredible. I was just aware of the most profound sort of feeling of peace, profound feeling almost of journey's end, but also knowing that this is where I'm meant to be, this is where I'm meant to be going. Now, at this stage, there was no thought whatsoever of my family, my wife, my business, my 4 children, and our dog. I had not thought of them at all. I was being quite selfish. I thought, this is it. I'm on the way. Hooray, let's go. So, and then as we travelled, it was a promising sort of journey because there was always going to be something around the next turn of this tunnel. It just wasn't straight the way down. But then I heard a voice, which turned out to be the doctor's voice, came through somewhere, and it said, he was talking to the 3 guys there, I think we've got him, I think we've saved him, I think he'll come around. And my first response was, no, 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 let me go, don't. This is where I was very selfish. I don't want to. But then suddenly, my eyes opened. I was laying on this table. These guys were hovering around me, looking at me like this. They looked all out of proportion and out of size. They were so worried and so concerned that I'd died, which I had, but I'd come back. Apparently the doctor injected all sorts of things directly into my heart and got the heart restarted somehow or another. Wow. But my first thought was, I didn't want to be here. But as Raewyn often recounts to me, the aftermath of this was terrible for me because when I got home, I recounted this experience to her straight away. Never had heard of anything like this. These days, back in the 70s, I'd never read anything about near-death experiences. It wasn't a term which was around. And so I said, look, I don't know what happened. I didn't have a clue what happened at that stage. But for weeks after I was ill, I lay in bed for quite a long time, just not being able to virtually move. And I likened it to as if my body was like a beautiful silk scarf which had been dragged across a thorn bush and torn and tattered, but still whole. And that's the way I felt. So I wasn't happy being back at that stage in the physical body because it was just so, not painful, it was just so shattered. Okay, I wasn't enduring pain or that painkiller, nothing like that. It was just a complete shift. So I guess that this is an experience which may happen to other people, coming back into the body with a rush. There are those, of course, I've subsequently read about who have an encounter with a being, and often there is a message, no, your time is not now, go back. And I think that's very good. I would have liked to have had that. That might have put things in a different perspective. So that sat with me from about 1973 all the way through. Okay, and it was just, and then probably about 4 years after that, Raewyn and I came across people who were following a particular meditational and devotional path based in northern India. And so we embraced this as a spiritual, we were just looking for a spiritual path. And this was beautiful. And it just gave us a base on which to work. And it was just meditation and following a pure diet, vegetarian food, and abstaining from drugs and alcohol and things like this. Just straightforward, okay? And this is what this gave us, this base and an equilibrium. So, and there, things moved, and from there on, we did little bits and pieces, and it wasn't until I was over 50 that we entered into the business that we started in Auckland, and that went on for quite a number of years. So I guess things flowed on from that near-death experience, embracing what we call a spiritual path and becoming more deeply aware of the spirit. And then, of course, becoming very interested in the deeper history of this land and discovering the spiritual aspect of the landscape and of the mother, of Papatūānuku, the Mother Earth. And so, hope that answers that little
Absolutely.
question there.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It's beautiful to hear that. And because recently we had a few people on that for a week, it was all about near-death experiences. And there's certain similar themes that always flow through, but then there's always nuances and different ways. So it's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. There's just one more thing I'd like to ask about that before we go on. And it's that you received the Spirit Walker. You received this... could you tell us about Spirit Walker? Because this came from the...
Spirit Walker is a name which came to me in one of my dreams. And I thought that this is rather apt. And I was in this particular encounter of my dream. I was called Gary Spirit Walker. And I thought, what's this all about? But then I thought, I can lay claim to this name because I have walked. I've walked in the realm of the spirits, in the physical form, and aware of it, and I've come back. So I can truly be a spirit walker. I just use it sometimes and just refer to that. Yeah. I have a name which was given to me recently, a Māori name, which is Kari Waimarie, and that is just a beautiful name. It refers to Gary, which is Kari, and then Waimarie, which is spiritual and all those beautiful things. So I'm quite happy with those, and I sometimes put them on the end of a letter or a note. But Spirit Walker does seem to be quite apt.
I love that. I love that. I just wanted to ask briefly about that. So yeah, that's so beautiful. And you are in this magical land. We talked about.
I'll tell you another name I had.
Yes.
Which is so funny, because. And it's one which I don't bandy about, but I'll share it with you. Why not? Let it go out there. Because when I was 16, I had an accident. I was doing things which young boys do, and I blew myself up. I sort of knocked myself to pieces, and I blew off half of my hand, okay? And so I sometimes call myself Gary Half Hand. Because I can lay claim to that too.
Yes.
So one hand is only half a hand. So there we are. Gary Spirit Walker Half Hand. So, but I still like to be known just as Gary.
So those others are for certain times when it feels right. Oh my God! Thank you for sharing. That's amazing. Wow.
Well, I mean, if I'd lost a leg or two, imagine how long my name would be.
Yes. My wife is Brazilian, and they have like 5 or 6 names. It's hilarious when they start to tell their whole name. So yeah, it goes across. That's beautiful. So for now, we'll stay with Gary. That's amazing. So beautiful. So, and I think one other thing, like, it was very interesting to me, like, knowing now your deep connection to nature, your deep connection to the plants and the animals, and actually your near-death experience came through a bee. Because I didn't know what happened. It's interesting, isn't it? That was what that drew that experience from. Have you had any other sort of interactions or experiences with bees since, or has there been any? Just curious about that.
I guess that a lot of my latter experiences with these connections have been more in hearing, not seeing.
Yeah.
And Raywin and I have had experiences together, and I've had experience singularly in hearing things. So I guess that one thing which happened to me quite a number of years ago, I was at a forest retreat in the Pureora forest where we did some filming because the Patapaerehi, the fairy folk, are very active there. And there were 30 of us there for this weekend, including 1 or 2 young children. And we'd all bedded down for the night, and I was in a bunk room this is one of these sort of lodges, that you have in the rural areas. And I was in the bunk room. I had this room by myself, and I snuggle up in my sleeping bag just under the window there in the bottom bunk, and just drifting off to sleep. And suddenly there was tapping on the window at my head. This is about 11 o'clock, 11:30 at night. Tapping on the window by my head, and laughter, children's laughter. And I thought, shivers. And so I stumbled out of bed, cracking my head on the bunk above and almost falling over, tangled up in my sleeping bag. Get over to the window, throw the curtains back and open the window to see what these kids are doing outside, tapping on the window. Nobody there. Moonlit night, just not bright moon, not a full moon, a half moon, and just looking out over this little field there beside the lodge. Nothing there. And I thought, oh, must have been those children staying down in the room down from me with their parents, and they got up and just being mischievous. They're only tiny kids. I thought, okay. Anyhow, back into bed, just pull the blinds, close the window, pull the blinds, the curtains, getting back down and getting myself into my sleeping bag, and back it came again. Tap, tap, tap on the window, laughter, children's laughter. So this time I was more prepared. Leapt up because the sleeping bag was hardly on, and threw the curtains back, threw the window open, looked out, nothing there. I thought, by Joves, these children are really sort of having me on. So I leapt up, grabbed my torch, sped off down the little short passageway to the next room, the bunk room, where Mum and Dad and a couple of other people and the two little kids were staying. Whooped in there, shone my torch around. Everyone was dead to the world. The two little kids were out to it. And I thought, what the heck's going on? What's this about? And so the next morning I spoke to Wuramu Turner, the kaumātua, who was there with us for the weekend. And he said, that was the Patapaerehi, the fairy folk. They were out last night, he said. I was out having a cigarette on the back porch from where I was staying down in the back there. And he said, they were chattering away to me out there. And I said, okay, so this is interesting. And this is what often happens to me, or even Raewyn. We'll hear things and not necessarily see them. And it's quite intriguing. I have some dear friends such as Nikki Hammond and others, of course, who are more open to these experiences. And they thank goodness for good friends like this, because they can tell me what they are seeing that I don't see, which is wonderful. And I'm quite happy with this, actually, Michael. I can experience them in a way which satisfies me, and I don't have to really see them. Although, as you know, we often see things in our peripheral vision, and it's when we whip around to have a quick look, it's not there. So I'm quite happy with encounters which are sound encounters, acoustic encounters. Yeah, laughter, and merriment.
Yeah, beautiful. I'm very similar to you, and sometimes very much auditory is my kind of dimensional experiences is very auditory, and at times when I hear people describing like very, vivid visual experiences, I'll be honest, I get a wee bit jealous. I haven't accepted it like you. I kind of want those visual, but for me, it's like that. It's generally something out of the corner of my eye, and it's but yeah, the auditory experience it's beautiful, and it's powerful, and again, you get these experiences from others, so they fill in the blanks, they fill in those things, and everything that happens, I think, happens the way it's meant to be. So in the documentary in Voices from the Forest, you kind of asked the question about these fairy folk, the little people. Are they physical beings? Are they interdimensional beings? And we had a little chat beforehand about your two friends who have now passed on to their next adventure. And the feeling was, I'd like to ask what your feeling is now, but what I feel when having watched that again and speaking with you here, that you've had experiences that these dimensional experiences that seem to happen to certain people and not others. Do you feel these are interdimensional aspects of you, or your expanded state, or where have you come to on this kind of quasi-physical, physical, dimensional experiences with these beings?
Well, of course, this is where I dive into quantum physics, okay, and looking at how physicists are looking at parallel universes and parallel to us. Can I just quote something here? I've got a little paper here. I made a few notes a while ago, and I'll just read this out to you. This, I think, would be far easier. So, excuse me, everyone out there. I'm just going to read from these notes. This I wrote on the 24th of March 2013, 7 years ago. Oh, gosh. And once upon a time, a long time ago, before our ancestors painted on cave walls, there was a time when humans and fairies were from the same world. The fairies were content beings who grew out of the earth, out of the winds, out of the trees, the clouds, the waters, and the oceans. And according to some stories, humans came from the stars, and they had special knowledge and skills and freely exchanged us with the fairy. Now, no one knows to this day why the humans forgot their origins and became more earthbound, or why the fairies, with their magic, shifted to a different dimension behind a veil of mist. At first, few noticed the loss, but after a time, members of both races remembered and began seeking ways to reunite the world, which I find quite intriguing, actually. And that came from things I'd read and what other people had noted and experience they had. So there was a time when humans and fairies were that close together. And it is believed that the last and greatest separation came. The separation started, of course, with the advent of organized religion coming into landscapes right throughout the world. But we're looking mostly here at European and content and context. And so the last big division came in the start of what we call the industrial age. And this was a time when humans were developing iron. They discovered they could smelt and make iron. And iron was something then which was part of the steam age. And it was powerful motors and burning of coals and the elements of the earth and creating smoke and pollution. But also they were laying tracks, railway tracks all across the landscapes. They were creating wire and putting wire to divide lands up into paddocks and things like this. Not so much in Ireland and parts of the UK where they had stone fences.
Stone walls, yeah.
Yeah, stone walls. But suddenly, this was, they say, too much for the fairy realms. This became the last division because fairy, in all the research I've done and as it's been explained to me, have always had an abhorrence with iron, with steel, cold steel. And we know that in a lot of, in medieval times and right up to more recent times probably too, people would hang a horseshoe over the, the lintel of the doorway. And this was always said, you hang a horseshoe there with the opening up, and this denoted good luck and good fortune for the house. Some people who couldn't afford a horseshoe hung up a nail, a metal nail. Now this was known to be repugnant to the fairies. They would never go near a house. They would never approach the doorway of a house that had iron hanging there.
Wow.
So we came into the age, the industrial age, which is steam and power and railway engines and big stationary engines. And then, of course, so many people left the land, went to the cities to work in all this terrible atmosphere, and they abandoned the land. And then, of course, we had the clearances right through Ireland and through Scotland, where people were just pushed off the land and forced off the land. And so suddenly, people just weren't on the land as much as they used to be. So the final connections with the Fae, or fairy folk, were really broken and fractured. So now some people are telling me that we've gone through the steam age and the age of iron. We're now into the age of technology. And this is a different age where we can, within this age, reopen these connections. Now, I must put in a little story here, which you'll find intriguing. In my research into Maori myths and legends of the Patapaerehi, or the fairy folk of the forest, the Maori used to be beset often in their villages by the Patapaerehi, who would come and they'd be mischief makers. And this is a tradition amongst fairies all over the world, whether we're looking at the leprechaun
Yeah.
in Ireland or wherever. Okay, mischievous. We have a bit of fun here. Just lead the humans on. So they would make themselves a bit of a nuisance in the old Maori village. And the Maori people found that by painting red ochre on the front of their buildings, which they still do to this day as part of the tradition, and red ochre here is trying to think of the name. Okay, it's clay with an iron oxide in it.
Ah, yes.
Iron.
Yeah.
Okay, and they mix it up with fish oil or fat from birds, and they make a paste of it. Then they painted it. Now they painted this here with the iron oxide in it to keep the Patapaerehi away.
Wow.
Now that was the only link I found in my limited research around the world where this was something which was used to keep the fairy folk at bay. So that's incredible. It's hematite. That's right, hematite. Okay, which is an iron oxide, which you find the iron in certain clays.
Yes.
And so there we have. So there is something which, as far as I'm concerned, was a parallel between what happened in other parts of the world, particularly documented in parts of Europe, and what happened here in ancient times with Maori, and how they they didn't want the fairy folk always, because they were aware of them all the time. All the stories, anecdotes or reports I've collected, which were written by early European explorers here, about the dread they had of the fairy folk, or the fear, because they were the unseen ones. They're the ones who only came out at night time, or if the clouds were down over the mountains, and you could hear them. Maori could always hear them in the forest. You could hear them singing, and hear them at night time rowing their little wakas or canoes across the lake or across the river, but never to see them. And so they became quite mysterious and also quite frightening in a way. You might remember, actually, if you just looked at the documentary recently, the opening of the documentary was those young Maori men in the van driving home through the forest at night time, and suddenly it screeched to a halt. Oh my gosh. And here was this line of 20 plus little people walking across the road in front of them, and the fear that it engendered amongst those young men in there. And when we took their affidavits on this, two of them said they would never ever drive through that forest again at night time, ever, no matter what. So there still is a superstition. It's still deep there. And yet other people said, oh, we're quite open to them. They're always there. We acknowledge them. So acknowledgement is a big thing too. I acknowledge all these unseen beings here, and I think I'm probably hedging my bets just in case they want to throw a stone on the roof at night and keep me awake or something like that, or curdle my milk.
That's amazing. Wow, that's incredible. I've never heard that about the iron and the horseshoe. I remember seeing that, and the ochre. Wow, it all ties together. And I feel what's so important now is that this let's say the circumstance we're in on Earth now, there's a lot of, let's say, separation just between humans, never mind dimensional beings. And I feel at this time it's so important that we can come back together and find this, like you said, the equilibrium, find this space in the middle where we can reconnect with these beautiful beings. And it's interesting that that you talked, the fear that people had. Do you think that came from the religious influence, because they didn't want us to be connected with something other than just what we could see and taste and touch? Because many people that are open to it, they have the experience of joyful laughter, playful, do you feel that fear? And I feel like that's something that's so important. If people have that fear, that we're able to, especially now, maybe address that or find where the core of that is, so we can open up to that again.
I think so. I guess among some people there may be a fear. I've spoken to some Maori people in New Zealand who still hold a fear. I've spoken to a lot of others who do not, and people I've been in touch with around the world who do not have a fear. There is quite a desire amongst people to actually rediscover these worlds, and I think when you speak to folk and you can get them to open up, so many people had a fairy experience when they were young, and they may have been 3 or 4 years old, anywhere up to, as we know, about 7 or 8 years of age, and then things change within the human child. So many people do have had that experience, and this is as good a way as any to help people to think a bit more deeply about this, or start to explore it for themselves. To sort of say, well, can you think back? Did you, when you were a child, can you remember your unseen playmates, your imaginary playmates that you used to play with, either on the bedroom floor or down the bottom of the garden behind the bushes there? Those that you used to talk to, those that you were aware of, those that you may have even seen. So many people have had experiences. And so this is open to everybody. And when I drew information from those advertisements I placed in the paper, a lot of them were from farmers and people who are hunters. And these were people who were out in the outdoors. They weren't town and city dwellers as such. And they were having experiences which were with little beings. When I say little beings, people who looked like children, 3 to 4 foot high, in groups of 4 or 5, walking across a paddock between the trees, coming out from behind bushes when the hunters were going into the forest. Now, people shared this with me. People shared all these things, and it was quite incredible. And and these are dyed-in-the-wool hunters and farmers and rough and ready guys, and they didn't mind being open and sharing this, because they were quite mystified. What were they seeing? What had they seen? And some of them would sort of put it into the realms of the fairies. Also, a number of years ago, I joined an organisation called the Fairy Investigation Society, and they were holding a world census about 5 years ago. And I think over a period of time, they collected something like 500 affidavits from people all around the world, sharing their present-day fairy experiences, or those which occurred in the last few years of their lives. Amazing, and sort of the common links. But you found, though, that people in Ireland and people in Norway and people in other parts of the world, even in America, they were having fairy experiences, but the fairies were very much local fairies, okay? I mean, the thing which stands out with Ireland, of course, we've got leprechauns, but there are so many other beings there as well. But the leprechauns are ones which really stand out. And you've got trolls in parts of Scandinavia, and you've got elves in other parts of the world. So it seems that there is a incredible lot of observations or interactions going on right around the world, and people can talk about it and be free about it. But often I talk to groups of children, and little children, especially young girls, are so keen to know about fairies, and they just sit there and they listen. And then, of course, they always sort of say, well, how can we see a fairy in the garden? How can we see because they want to see the flower fairies, okay, flying around the flowers, or sitting on the back of the dragonfly or the butterfly, or even the bumblebee flying around. And so I sort of say, okay, well, what you have to be able to do is to find a place in your garden at home, or your nana's garden, where you can sit quietly. The sun might be shining and you've got a quiet time there, and just sit quietly and just think about fairies and just be. And then I say, well, there is another way you can actually help to open your eyes to the fairies, of course. And the one thing is, of course, is find a 4-leaf clover and pick the leaf and put it into a little bit of water. Let it sit overnight. Then, before you go down to the garden, look at fairies, dip your fingers into that water, close your eyes and just rub that over your eyelids, and this just may open up an inner sight. But I said another good measure, in which you have to ask your mother or your granny, is, can we please borrow your little hand mirror? Because remember, people used to have little hand mirrors on handles or things like that, you know. And take the mirror with you when you go down the garden, find your little comfortable place and sit there quietly and concentrate on seeing the fairies. And if you think there's something around when you've opened your eyes and you're looking, you can't see anything, very quietly pick the mirror up, look at it over your shoulder, and the chances are you may see a fairy behind you, because they think you can't see them, but you're looking in the mirror. Children love that. And I often give to children stones I pick up from various beaches around New Zealand, where they're softer sort of stone, where a little borer type shellfish has drilled a hole through it. You get these all around the world. You find on the beach a stone, and you hold it up and you look through it. And so these are what are known throughout Europe as fairy stones. So I have a collection of these I give to children, and I sort of say, this is another aid. If you're in the garden and you've got your fairy stone I've given you, you just pick that and you just close one eye. And so this is what it does, because it focuses your vision, you know, sort of right in that small area. And away to go, quite happy. I don't know what transpires, but I remember for a number of years I used to give talks at an outdoor festival for about 7 or 8 years. And I got to know this young girl and her mother. This wee girl was about 5 when I first met her. And she bowled up to tell me her fairy stories. And it was just wonderful. And then every year thereafter, for about 6 or 7 years, at the festival, she'd come up to me. Now she'd grown up, you know, she was a teenager, and she was still having fairy experiences, which she loved to share with me. So if there is an openness and also a childlike innocence, this is possible. And so back to that original point, go back into your early times, and was there something which your imagination said was a fairy, or some grandparent or someone, great uncle said to you, oh, that was a little fairy. Think about that, and that just may be your opening back into those fairy realms.
Wow, absolutely beautiful. And what I'd love to do, because we're live here, I would love to invite anyone who's watching, whether you're watching live or on replay, please put in the comments now if you have had those experiences, or maybe just Gary's beautiful sharing now has opened up a memory for you. Please put it in the comments now if you've had that experience, if you've had, or maybe it's just sparked a memory now. Please share it with us in the comments. And I'd like to share, like, I have no memory of early childhood, but I do at the moment now have the blessing of watching a young child grow up. My son is nearly 2, and we see him all the time, speaking, doing little signs with, and we just sit and watch. So I'm able to watch it through him. And my wife has memories of so much of that. She has very clear, vivid memories. Myself, again, not much sight, but I'm able to watch through him, and it's just amazing to watch. And we will very much nurture that and encourage that all the way through, because we're in a different time. But I would love to hear if anyone who's watching now or in the future, any of your experiences, please share them. And I'd just like to ask quickly about the 4-leaf clover, because that I want to try that. Can you just describe again? So you find the 4-leaf clover. Did you say you take one leaf out, or it's all? Just describe that quickly again, please.
Right, a 4-leaf clover, if you're fortunate enough to be able to find one.
Yes.
Okay, and you just pluck one leaf.
One leaf.
And
okay.
you take that and you put it into a little glass with some purified water.
Yes.
If you can get pure water, or you purify the water out of the tap yourself. Just leave that sitting in there overnight. And so you've created like a little elixir. Okay, and it's just a matter of dipping fingers in there and just applying that to the closed eyes, just on the eyelids above the closed eyes, and that will open up. Also, another thing too, people think that you've got to go out on the full moon, at midnight on the full moon, to be with the fairies as they dance in wherever they might be. But as I've just recently discovered with my research, is whether it is at midnight or whether it is at midday. Those are two times, one in the middle of the night, one in the middle of the day, where the fairy people congregate and are accessible. So you don't have to get out and go out in the middle of the night and stomp around in the frost or the snow. You can actually do it in the middle of the day. But what you have to try and work out is where you are on the planet. And we've got man-made time. So you've got to very carefully work out when really is midday and when is true midnight. And I think we just relate to where the sun is. And you can work this out. I haven't worked it out properly, but I'm going to be doing that. Because I've been out a couple of times at midnight, sat out in the cold there with the full moon streaming down, and just have not had what I call a satisfactory experience, except just getting tired and grumpy. But now, being cold. But now, of course, I'm going to exercise this idea at midday, at noon, when the sun is high.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's beautiful. I just want to share a little magical thing that happened, and it's still happening. I want to watch this back on replay, but as you begun to share about the four-leaf clover, and you mentioned the sun shining. You were sharing something. You mentioned the sun shining. This beam of sunlight just came in, and I only noticed it then. It might have been there before, but look at the beam of sunlight that's just shining onto your head now. I don't know if anyone else noticed that, but I just noticed it as you spoke of the sun, and it's still just beaming in directly on top of your head. It's just magical.
Wow. How incredible.
And it's still there.
This
yeah.
This sometimes happens. It's quite funny. Not funny, it's just wonderful. Because I do a lot of little recordings of myself standing in the fairy glade in our forest. And I'll hold my camera out there and I'll talk away for 2 or 3 minutes, just sharing things with folk. And sometimes I'll move around a bit. Then lo and behold, a big ray of sunlight bursts in, or there's a kaleidoscope of rainbow colours appear out of nowhere. And you sort of try not to say anything, as you're going, oh, wow, sort of moving around a bit. So this happens, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And that it's literally shining. I'm sure you can see it on your screen. It's just literally shining on top of your head now. And I only noticed it when you begin to talk there. So it'd be interesting to watch it back on replay, but it's beautiful.
Well, I'm not sitting in the sun either.
Wow. You see, the light finds a way.
Just in front of me here and behind. There's no sun coming directly in the window. So look, you've just got to be so careful what you talk about. Look what happens.
Pure magic.
Be careful with what you wish for, because you may get it.
Wow. Oh, that's just amazing. Just magical. So yeah, people just need to connect with that magical side, that innocent side, that childlike side, and the light will find a way. I'm going to ask you something again, because I feel our connection with these fairy beings and with the all of the unseen is so important at this time now when we're feeling disconnected. What do you feel is the message of these beings that you've connected with for us? Of course, we've had this disconnection, we've had all of these things. Now we're coming back. What do you feel like their message for us is in general?
The message, I think, in general is actually was discussed momentarily in the documentary, and I guess I can further expand on this, is right. We live in the biosphere of this planet, all of us. And we live as humans alongside all the animals and birds, the invertebrates. We live within the forests and the trees and the waters. And so we live in this fully enclosed, beautiful capsule, which is our Mother Earth, which is Papatūānuku. Right. And this is where we function. But also in another vibration or parallel to us live many other realms, many other dimensions right alongside us. And I did ponder on this a while ago. I sat down in the forest and I just recorded this briefly, and no, it was just not to broadcast. And I was pondering on what the fairy realms are thinking of the planet today, the planet that they share with us. Because what I was pondering on, I know from what I've experienced and what I've been told by other people that they share much the same types of foods as we do. Okay. They live in the forests alongside us. Now, when I look at a forest tree, is that the same tree that the fairy folk are seeing as what I'm seeing? Do they see the same tree or is it slightly different? So I surmise that they're living in an environment which is identical to our environment. I'm looking at the pure, pristine world of nature as it was, as it used to be. And with the predatory nature of humans today, we have modified so much of the surface of the planet, where we've taken away of the forests and we've captured the waters and we've done all of these things and we've dug deep into the mother and to Papatūānuku. What is going on in the fairy realms? How are they responding to this? And I would say that the energetic beings that they are and where they live, they are feeling the effects of what humans are doing to the human dimension, right? And how is this affecting them? I feel that there now is a need for dialogue, which we put in the documentary, and I think this is coming through. We need to be able to talk about this. We need to be able to cross over where conversations can be held. And it would be such a revelatory thing if suddenly people were made aware of the fact that there are other beings. And the only thing that humans today would accept in this realms are alien beings from other planets. Okay. Surveys they've done throughout the world, particularly in America, so many people believe in UFOs and alien beings and things like this because they've been brainwashed by all the epic films they put out about all this sort of thing. But to sit down, to be able to have a dialogue with the fairy folk, this will be possible, and I have no doubt that some people are having a dialogue with them, and they may be sharing this, in their small circle of interest. But I think this could grow, and it would be just a wonderful thing if more and more people became aware of these beings that live alongside us. They live in exactly the same environment as us. They breathe the same sort of air. They drink the same sort of water. They eat the same types of food. I've looked at what they eat in the way of foods in New Zealand, and of course, what we're looking at with the Patapaerehi, the fairy folk, they're still foragers. They're not gardeners, and they move around the landscape foraging, and they fish and they forage, and they have all the food that they need within nature. This is just going back to what it used to be like in the evolution of humankind, where we were hunter-gatherers and foragers. We weren't farmers and things of this nature. So there is a need for dialogue, and someone has to open this up, and it has to be in a way where there's going to be in a manner which people are going to sort of say, oh my gosh, look what he's saying, or look what he's sharing, or listen to this recording he's made or she's made of this conversation. So this is going to happen, and it has to happen very soon, because with the population, the human population of the planet, and so the erosion of all the surface of the planet with gardening and mining and the pollution of the waters and the atmosphere, it actually has to come to a point where it cannot go much further. So it's to the detriment of the fairy folk. They are being, I think, greatly affected by this. And I think they're waiting for the dialogue to happen. And it may be that they cannot sort of come out and sort of knock on your door and sort of say, well, here I am, let's have a chat. We have to be able to, I think, open this doorway, because humans closed it off. Fairies retreated, but humans closed the door. And the fairies just stepped right back. So we've got to open the door, I feel, and invite them back in to have a korero, which is a Māori way of having a talk, and have a talk. And I might add, too, that the Mother Earth, the Papatūānuku, whatever you like to call her, Gaia, with everything that's going on her surface, this is not affecting her. It's an irritant. in a way. She has been here for so long,
Yeah.
and she will go on being here for so much longer.
Yeah.
And the irritant is what's going on with humans scratching around on the surface. I guess it's just like having a little insect bite. And occasionally she shrugs her shoulders and a tsunami occurs, an earthquake happens,
Yeah.
a hurricane strikes. So this is all, and we often say today that these things are speeding up, and it's all put down to climate change. We're getting more and more hurricanes and typhoons and things like this, which are devastating, and tornadoes. But it is, I think, just the Mother Earth just sort of shaking or shivering a bit, sort of saying, gosh, when are these people going to stop this? So back to the original question. Yeah, we do have to have a dialogue. And I just hope that in sharing this with you today, Michael, and as this goes out to the people that are listening and watching, that there's going to be someone sitting there who's ready, who has perhaps already started to have the dialogue or are waiting, ready for the inspiration or the idea to open this up. And I'd just love to hear about this.
Absolutely, absolutely. I just want to tell you some synchronicities just exactly about this conversation now, because we have people in the comments saying they've been seeing them. They've been Pascal saying yes, finally dialogue. They love when you share and talk. People are asking about the documentary as well. We'll put the link for the documentary. We'll put it there. Susan is saying she's had experiences. She's seen them. Pascal's working with them. And Sandra also as well. So many people sharing their experiences, and I just want to share. And
Wow.
my 1 year ago today. So I told you at the beginning, 1 year ago on the 31st of August, I arrived. 10 years ago, sorry, I arrived in New Zealand for the first and only time, and. Our sister Melissa Dehan has just put in a comment here that this time last year I was together with her at a ferry fort in the Midlands in Ireland, and she's just reminded me of this now. And yes,
Okay.
we were there exactly at this time. And today my Facebook feed, like at least three different times, there was posts about ferries, and one of them was a lady, and I'm going to tag her in this now. She was at a ferry space. I'm not sure exactly what country she might be in the UK, but she was kind of having a dialogue through kind of song and kind of like light language and song. And all of this has just all come up today. So I feel very, very, we're ready.
Mm-hmm.
We're ready. And those who are uniquely called, it's really important that they answer that call, I feel. So just wanted to share that.
Wow.
Yeah, amazing. It was the first time I'd seen a proper fairy ring. And I lived in Ireland most of my life, and we were with Melissa, and it's a proper fairy ring, mushrooms all around, and it was near this.
Yeah.
It was near this, what was funny about it is that you could see that recently the grass had all been completely cut, and this had grown back completely again. You could see all the recently cut grass, so. Really, really interesting. Wow, that's beautiful, and I can feel, and I know people are in the comments here are ready to do that. So it's so beautiful. So tell us about. Sorry, how's your time, Gary? Because we've gone. I know we're a little bit over. I just want to make sure and respect and honor your time. How are you there?
Oh, I'm right.
You're okay?
I mean, if you've got 10 hours to spare, I'll sit here for 10 hours.
I could sit here for the rest of my life, and then the people watching I know could sit here for the rest. So many beautiful comments about how just magically you're able to share in language and story and convey that. So absolutely beautiful. So I'd love to hear about the Secret Land, the Secret Land project that you we've got it on the screen here. So could you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, the Secret Land project, I always like to actually give titles or names to various things I have been doing. And Secret Land, of course, came to me as a name to put on my publications and my books probably 25 years ago, when Raywin and I started to move throughout New Zealand, investigating where the ancient people used to live and looking at ancient tribal stories, sacred places or places of significance. And I suddenly thought, this is very much a secret land. There's so much here just in the islands of New Zealand which people don't know. It's like it's a secret. So that's where secret land came from. Then consequently, after I sort of got all the addresses and that, and I found that there was a video or music called Secret Land. So it wasn't an original term, but it came to me. So Secret Land as far as New Zealand. And as far as I'm concerned, New Zealand is no longer the secret land because we have put so much out there. And what I go to say, and I do this, and I usually only say this when I'm talking face to face with people, so I can see an audience of 40 or 50 people there, and I can sort of gauge where they are with me. And I sort of say, well, sometimes I even call New Zealand a holy land, because there are so many places here which are so special. Some could call them spiritual, and some could call them places of uplift, some could call them places of healing. And why I came to this conclusion, a number of years ago, we had the wonderful experience over 3 years, of 2 months every year for 3 years, of traveling throughout New Zealand with Hamish Miller, the geomancer from England, and his wife Bar. And we dowsed, it was just the most incredible day. We dowsed all these significant places, and we looked at connections between them. We looked at recognition and what he found and revealed to us when we accompanied him on these little journeys, just six or seven of us in a tight group. He'd walk onto a place which we would introduce him to because it was significant to us. Out would come his dowsing rod. He'd walk round, and suddenly we would be stepping around and putting little strings or markers around, and he was suddenly, there would manifest the shape of a lotus flower or odd shapes like flower petals. And he said, in all the years, he's passed away since, but in all the years that he had done dowsing all over the world, and also he was one of the people responsible for dowsing out the Mary and Michael lines, which runs from Cornwall right up through England, north of London. Okay. Also the Apollo and Athena lines, which run from the south of Ireland right through the southern tip of England, right to the Holy Land, to Jerusalem.
Yeah.
So he walked the talk. He dowsed and found all these places. So when we walked onto a site here, which was just may have been some nice stones or a little hill or something like this, out would come the dowsing rod, away it would go. He was so surprised that everywhere he went in this land with us, that it responded so rapidly and quickly to him questioning with his rod. He said, I have worked all over the world and dowsed everywhere, America and Africa and right through Europe. He said, I've never seen such a rapid response from sites as I see in New Zealand. He said, it's as if everything has been powered down and it's just been waiting. And these sites respond to human acknowledgement. And as we stand here as a small group, and as I douse, the response just comes like that. And we experience this time after time after time. And there was a book written about this in Search of the Southern Serpent. He wrote it in conjunction with Barry Brailsford. And so I suddenly thought, my gosh. And as I, over a period of years, was giving talks at various festivals, summer festivals, and I noticed that these festivals, where I went back to year after year, there was something so special about them. It was a gathering of people there, like-minded people, but also there was an energy there which attracted the whole festival base. Why do people come here? And so I suddenly thought, well, we have retreat centres, we have festival sites, we have places which families acknowledge as being so special, where they just go as family groups. And I suddenly realised there was a network of them right across the whole country, and they're all interconnected. So So there's a connection between them all. And so one place where the family may go to, or the group may go to for that particular occasion, is drawing an energy from somewhere 1,000 miles away, right down the bottom of the South Island. So there's a link. But of course, this is all linked to the World Wide Web that we know, the energy web out there, not the web that we get on the computer,
Yes.
the real web.
The internet.
So, yeah, not the internet. Yeah, well, this is the natural internet. So it's so the secret land, and I sometimes call it the holy land. Okay, there. I call it the sacred land. I call it the secret land and the sacred land. Okay.
Beautiful. And so
And I just say to people sort of say, well, I've sort of got to go and have this experience and go to these places that you've told us about or written about, because I've written about these quite a lot actually in my books, and explained to people how to get there, etc., etc. And I said, listen, you can do the journey yourself. I said, just walk out your front door, just go to the nearest beach, or just go into your backyard, or go down the road to where there is a little park that the council has put in place where the children have swings and there's trees. I said, you might be surprised what you'll find there. And it may be that it'll be a tree that attracts you, because that one tree there is so special, it almost talks to you silently, and it's growing in the middle of all the other trees, but that's a tree where it's a focal point of that particular energy in that place. And so there's a whole network.
wow.
I make it sound so simple, don't I?
You make it sound incredible, magical. That's what I want to say. Just, I want to get out there now. It's just amazing. And you actually, so you mentioned that you take people. I don't know. Do you still do this? You take people on these tours and journeys through the sacred sites in New Zealand and the surrounds. Do you still do that? I know now at this moment.
No, I don't. It's just getting
No.
a bit too hard on the physically, etc., etc. But what we do on occasions, we have a lot of groups who are doing what we used to do, is take groups around. They'll come to us here. So I have people visit with me and spend a day with me here on the land, where we story tell and do music of the plants and dowsing and all sorts of wonderful little things, and on they go. So I thoroughly enjoyed the days that we progressed all over New Zealand with groups of 14 or 15 people for 7 or 10 days, on a spiritual odyssey. It was just incredible. So it's nowadays it's I can give people a map and sort of say, well, where do we go? And I say, well, look, here's a map. I even have the what do you call the GPS
Yes.
coordinates. So if they got a GPS, they can go straight to places around the land.
Perfect. Harnessing the modern technology. I love it. And let people come to you. So I want to share a little message someone has put into the in the comments here, and you can see if you can guess who it is. So this person says, I have another name for Gary. It's the Pied Piper. Because whenever every time I see him speaking in a group or gathering in a natural setting, there's always a group of little people following behind him, walking in joy and sometimes catching little beams of light that stream from him. They love him so.
It's Nikki.
I know. I think I know who that is. All right.
I thought you might.
I know, and this is what I love about having these connections with one or two special people like that, because they constantly reinforce what I'm doing. As I said, I don't see the same visuals as they do, and I'm just so pleased that I have people that I know and they share this with me. So I see all this through their eyes, which is wonderful. Yeah,
Absolutely beautiful. Amazing.
and I often recount, that particular thing. I hadn't actually used the term the Pied Piper, but I find that quite intriguing.
You have to add that to the list now.
I don't know about that.
Oh, wow. Just absolutely beautiful, incredible. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so
you
much.
know what? We're going to have to come back sometime, because we didn't get into the music of the plants.
Well, if you're good, I would love to talk about that, because we actually had another lady on talking about that recently, and she played harp with music of plants. I would love to talk with them. If you're good, I'm or we can do it again. I would happily, and I know everyone watching would love to do it again. I'm happy with both. I'd love to speak about that now if you like.
Well, it's interesting. And it's not only music of the plants. It's the plant world per se. I'll just give an overview
Sure.
of things that I like to talk about. First of all, I talk about people about. I've just made a few notes here. 7 signs that plants are speaking to you. That's one of my headings. Okay, and I tell people how you know plants are speaking to you. Then a little interesting snippets which come out because I do a lot of scientific research on what's going on in the plant world with scientists around the world. Conclusions they've come to, like trees have a heartbeat. Plants can think, choose, and remember. Wow, this is bordering on consciousness. And trees are teachers about life and happiness. They are teachers, which is interesting. And one thing I like to talk about, natural antidepressants are found in the soil. So if we are gardeners of the soil, and we get our hands in the soil, they're actually natural antidepressants which we taken through our skin, which is incredible. Using tree energy to heal yourself, to bring about a change in the emotional or physical state that you're in. I could talk about that. Can plant music accelerate healing? Music of the plants can certainly assist with the healing processes, physical or emotional. Plant blood enables your cells to capture sunlight energy. Now, plant blood is, sometimes my memory fails me. What's the green substance?
Like chlorophyll. Chlorophyll.
Yeah, chlorophyll. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, here we are. The term just eluded me. Plant blood. If we have enough chlorophyll in our system, which is in our human blood, and this is by eating green-leafed or green plants, whether they are spirulina or something, but green leaf vegetables, we actually take enough, and it flows through our blood. We, scientists have found, we can actually photosynthesize sunlight into our body like a tree. Now, that's a big one. Okay.
Wow.
Now, trees have feelings, and they make friends with each other, and they look after each other. And ecologists are now saying that trees talk to each other in a language we can learn. And there was a term which has come out with researchers overseas, and they call it plant blindness. Humans have become blind to the world of plants. So there is a way that we can open our eyes to this incredible world and broaden your perspective of place by befriending a tree or a plant or even the pot plant. So that's something else we can look at. This is a field of interest to me at the moment. But you can see how it works out with the fairy realms, because what I'm doing with the music of the plants, I'm looking at the fact that the plant elementals are also involved in the music that I am producing from the plants. And the lady you were talking to me about with the harp, she'd probably be aware of this too. So everything is interrelated. You know, it just slots together quite well once you start stretching things out there and pulling in these strands. They come together very well. So there we are.
Magical.
That may be a topic for another session if you're up for it sometime.
Oh my God, I would absolutely love it. I would absolutely love it. And I know everyone watching would as well. Absolutely, because it's such a deep topic. And like, no matter where we are, like you said, even if you're in the city or somewhere like that, you can have pot plants. We are surrounded, but like you said, I'd never heard that term, but I can say I'm sure I was for a time in my life like blind to plants. For definitely, is like we are surrounded by this magical nature, but we have to open our eyes to see. And I just remember a quote now from the documentary from your friend. I know he has passed on now, but when you were going off into the forest, he said, may you see without your eyes, may you hear
Aye.
without your ears. I just loved that, and
Yeah,
that's what
I
we need to
know.
awaken.
That was just so beautiful. Yeah.
How do people who have forgotten that reawaken that? I know you've given a couple of things before, but how, maybe someone, they feel that, but they're just like, I can't see anything, or I don't know, it's okay for someone else, but I'm literally blind to this. I can't hear anything. I don't see anything. I don't feel anything. How do people reconnect with that? What do you feel people can do?
It's really experiential.
They could listen.
Hmm?
They can listen to the
Yeah,
plant.
yeah. So I guess one has to open oneself up to really listening to your pot plant, your favorite plant you have in the house. Or if you live in an apartment, you're growing some salad vegetables in a little planter out on the balcony. Or if you live in a townhouse, you've got a small backyard, you may have a few tomatoes, something growing there, and some little trees you put in. Or if you have a bigger property, you may have more trees there, so you're quite fortunate. And also not to ever underestimate the grass that we walk on. The grass is alive. The grass is active. The grass produces music. I've made music from grass. And so we are surrounded with opportunities. And if it's sort of COVID time where we're locked into our houses, which so many people have been all around the world, I just hope that people were able to explore a closer contact, not only with all their family members who are locked in with them, but with their pot plant, which they tend and nurture and look after and feed, is to be able to have a time to sit with it and talk to it. Okay. Raywin and I, we're gardeners, or Raywin is the supreme gardener, and she talks to things all the time, not outwardly, inwardly. Whenever I go out to the garden to pluck the lettuce leaf or cut something off or pick a fruit, you always thank the plant. You always say thank you, even if I have to dig something out because it's past its prime and the space is required for something else. I always give a blessing to that plant as I pull it out very quickly. There's no great ceremony. There's no great ritual. It's just what you think, even just what you think momentarily, just goes out there, as you know. Everything is connected, just like that. So then, of course, sometimes it takes a little push for people to get rid of any barriers which they've built up around them. And a lot of the barriers they have to these things come from childhood upbringing. It may be going back to when one was little. They used to experience things in nature. And if they used to try and share this with their parents or their siblings, they were ridiculed. Very quickly that was closed down because it just didn't fit. So the environment in which you've been raised and brought up, which is your parental or guardian influence, if there is opportunity for you to share and talk to them about the experiences, good. That'll always be there and always expand. But the fact that it closes down, it's not gone forever. Heavens above. I mean, we are in resonance, in the human form, is in complete resonance with everything around us. And I think the biggest connecting factor, and people can think about this too, is the water. Okay, depending on what scientific journal you read, the human body is 70 to 80% water. So is that tree in the forest. Water. So is every plant. So is every animal. Water is something, the water molecules are something which are with it, everything. Even a stone, which you may pick up in the garden or on the beach, dry stone, heavy, there's water inside it. There's microtubules inside stone and crystals, and where there's water. So water's everywhere. So we have this resonance waiting. And if we do go to a tree, if we want to make this connection, down the road or on our land or in a forest when we're on our own, put your hands on the tree and just talk to it. And what I often say to folk introducing themselves to this realm or this world of nature is to go about it gently. And sometimes, though, when we want to make this connection, we may have a heavy load on our shoulders, emotionally or even physically, or even with what's going on around the world. And if you can just sort of shed that for a moment when you approach a tree or the pot plant or the lemon tree in the backyard, just open yourself up to the moment. And if you're by yourself, you can actually talk to the tree and say hello, introduce yourself. If you're with a group of people, you can just do it silently. Now, the big thing is in going into or approaching a tree or even a forest area for the first time is to stop, introduce yourself, say who you are, say where you've come from. And you don't have to say why you're here. You may sort of say, I've just come to enjoy your company as a tree, or I've just come to enjoy the forest for a walk. And you just state who you are and why you've come. Now, this is where the secret lies with making this connection, is you don't just step back and walk off. You wait for a response, and the response will come. And it can take many forms. And I've seen this, it happens to me all the time. Every time I go into the forest at home here, I stop and reintroduce myself and just say, here I am again, virtually. The forest knows me quite well. So, and what will happen if you just stand still and open your eyes again? Because what you did, you were focusing on the question, you had your eyes closed, and you open your eyes and you wait for a response. Now, it just might happen that a leaf will fall off a branch and just go just down to the ground in front of you. Wow. It may be that where you stopped and paused, there was a little bank behind you, and there was moss growing in there, and there was a little bit of water dripping down there, not a spring, but just water dripping down. You may suddenly be aware of the water going drip, 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 which you never heard before. And because you're hearing, because you'd closed it up, is accentuated. Okay. Likewise, so is your eyesight. You sort of look around. You may have seen the leaf. You may look up, and there's a bird sitting there on the branch. Now the bird's been there the whole time. It never said anything, but it's been looking at you. And you look at the bird, and you say thank you. So the bird was just there. And it may be too that you suddenly become more aware of bird song at a distance. And say, well, I never heard those birds before. That's interesting. And then something else which can happen, particularly in a forest area, you can hear what you may perceive as being the laughter of children playing. And this is, of course, the fairy folk. Okay. And this does happen to people. And I know that viewers are going to be nodding their heads, sort of saying, oh, yes. And you know there's no children around because of where you are. There's no one in their proximity, but you can hear that. That's another sound. And then something which happens, and in Aotearoa, New Zealand, it's called a wairua. And you can be standing there and quite sheltered. There's no breeze or something. And suddenly the mystical breeze comes and goes whoosh around you, and your hair almost rises. And wow, where that breeze comes from. The leaves on the trees and bushes around you haven't stirred. They're still. So that is called the wairua, which is the spirit wind or the spirit. So all these signs will occur. Now, once you have introduced yourself going into a forest, to that first forest tree, you may feel inclined to chat to other trees as you wend your way down this path, but they already know you, because that tree that you spoke to is connected with every other tree in the forest. And people might sort of say, well, okay, yeah. Trees, their branches touch up the top and their tree roots interconnect. But no, because you've actually walked into the world of the Wood Wide Web, www, Wood Wide Web.
Oh my God, that's so good.
Yeah, because below the ground, just so far down, there is the fungus, a myriad of fungus, which runs called the mycelium. And this runs all over below the surface of everywhere in the world. And it is all interconnected with each other. And these act as a conduit, supplying all sorts of information from plant to plant on nutrients and water and things like this. The mycelium is looked after by the plants. It feeds on the plant sugars, the sugars that the plant creates when it does the photosynthesis. And the mycelium responds by looking after them. But it allows the plants to connect. And so in certain forests around the world, which I haven't really studied at depth, I've only studied here in New Zealand, there are trees which are what I would say are mediators in the forest, trees that act with trees of other species. So in the New Zealand forest, you'll get a mixed forest. And within, sort of a 20-meter radius, you may have 10 or 15 different varieties of trees growing, some only small seedlings, some quite big, yet they all get on and relate to each other. So trees live as a community. They support each other species-wise, and they support each other no matter what the species. They help each other. So great lessons to be learned from what goes on in the forest. So that's just an interesting way, or a way that you should approach the tree. So you can do this in the park, down the road, on the corner, if you go for a walk in the city or town, wherever you live, if you can't get out into the country. And just find a tree. And you don't have to do anything which is going to make you stand out in the crowd. You can just hover there or just sit down under the tree, sit down and talk to it. And I often say that tree hugging is good. Sometimes you don't want to do that in front of a crowd in case they wonder what on earth you're doing. But nowadays, tree hugging is reasonably acceptable. But I often say a hug is good, but also so is just putting your hands on the tree. People do that. Or I just put fingertips. Your fingertips are so very, very sensitive. So fingertips on the tree. So then that leads into how trees can help with healing processes for physical and emotional problems that people have. So that's a whole new world. So we should actually have another session sometime.
Absolutely.
If you've got the space.
Oh my God, I've got the space. We've got the space. If you've got the time, we have the space. Absolutely, we would love to do it. I mean, I'm just fascinated.
And then we can, but you can see how what I'm getting at here, everything is connected. There's an interconnection between all these things. And my research has taken me now with the devices I have, which I originally purchased for clipping onto trees and listening to the music.
Yes.
I've now recorded water, the song of water, with electrodes in the water. I have recorded the sound of the energy lines or ley lines below the earth. And I've also recorded stone, like in New Zealand we have the pouanamu or the green stone.
Yes. And
some green stones I've recorded. So even with the devices, humans can connect up and hear their own song, which is intriguing.
Absolutely magic.
So there's a whole fascinating world out there,
Wow. And you have just, I feel, for myself and for everyone here and whoever watching in the future, you've opened up. I feel you are a gateway to that world for people, or you open that just by how you share it, and it just opens up this magical and this curiosity and this childlike. And Nikki as well, I can see why you're such a good friend, and that it's such a magical gift that a lot of people in the modern world has been disconnected. Like, the beauty of this technology allows us to do this, but this technology can also keep us, I know myself included, I live in a beautiful space, but I spend more time in front of this screen than I do in front of the trees, and even knowing that is, it's so important to get back there and have that connection and with the unseen and the seen. It's not like, there's no barriers to it, only our decision to do that. So I feel it's so important, and I feel you've opened it up like just magically and beautifully, and I'm excited to get out there tomorrow again to do this myself, and I'm sure people are inspired listening to this as well, and it's just magical. And absolutely, I would love to do this again, and I feel like we could do a whole series, and I would be honored and blessed to be part of it if you feel it. So, but for now, I want to honor your time and keep it. We're at 1 hour 44 minutes. As soon as I look, 144, just confirmed, and confirmed again, and it literally changed to 145 as soon as I looked. But yeah, I just want to honor your time and thank you so much for everything that you've brought today. It's just been absolutely magical, and um, I feel like it's just a true blessing to be able to share this here, and for anyone that's been inspired and listened, and they want to connect with you further, they can go to thesecretland.co.nz. It's This Secret Land.
That's right. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so your books are there. The Sound of the Music is
Yes,
there.
there's a lot of things on there, and they can connect, through email there if they want to chat about things, which is lovely. And
Beautiful.
there's always Facebook. Of course, that's always a bit crowded, but I do put things up regularly, at least every second or third day, just little pearls or gems, as I call them. And I think I've got probably about 50 short film clips, very short, up on YouTube as well. So
Beautiful. We'll put those links in the comments there. And a lot of people were
thank
asking
you.
about the documentary as well. So the documentary is called Voices from the Forest, and that is available on your website as well. And for those that
That's
have Gaia TV,
that,
they
that's
can see.
about that's available to purchase as a CD,
Yes,
but it's available to view on Gaia.com.
yes, Gaia TV. I
Gaia,
and
Gaia TV.
Yeah, I highly recommend that. And also Nikki is also in that documentary. It's a beautiful
Yeah, I know.
documentary.
It's just lovely.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I recommend everyone to go check that out, and go to thesecretland.co.nz, and you can connect with Gary there. And I feel like definitely we will do this again, and maybe even we could do something together with yourself and Nikki as well, if you feel the
Why
call.
not?
I would love to bring it all together. Yeah, Gary, I just want to thank you so much for today. It's been incredible, absolutely beautiful experience. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you for all your comments. There's lots of comments here. We didn't get to them because we're just in a space of magical listening. So I just want to thank you again, and wish you a magical day there in the future, out in the future there on the 4th of September. And look forward to doing it again soon.
Well, Michael, look, and I thank you so much for just making the space available. I've enjoyed myself immeasurably this morning. I haven't actually spoken at this length probably for about 18 months. So I thought perhaps I'd lost it, but you've helped me to bring it out again. And I find that as Raywin, my wife, is sitting there sort of nodding her head and looking at me and smiling, because once I get on a roll, I'm on a roll.
And that's
And look, thank you so much for just doing what you do and what you bring to the world. And it's so important that we have people like yourself out there, and we have these networks where we can come together, link together, and from this link out we all go into all sorts of other directions. And then through all this and what you and others do, Nikki and others, we're making the most incredible connections all over the world continuously.
yes.
And that's important.
Absolutely. We need to mirror that what how did you say? I just love that word.
Wood Wide Web.
Wood Wide Web, that's amazing. And the mycelial network of the trees. That's what we need to mirror. We need to mirror that, because every tree is connected with every other tree. And us humans have forgotten that we're connected with every other being here. And if we can mirror that, the
That's
world's
right.
going to be a better place
Yay.
for all of us.
That's
Absolutely.
good.
Magical. I just want to say again, I just remembered now, as you reach for, when you describe that, how did you call it when you were outside, and this kind of swirl, there's no wind, you feel that? What did you?
Oh, okay. When you feel that, the literal term in New Zealand, it's a Maori term, it's called wairua.
Wailua.
Wairua, wairua.
Yes.
It's like the sacred wind, the sacred breath. And it's quite interesting. This can occur when people, either singly or a small group, are gathered together inside. They could be sitting in a house with no windows open, and they could be talking about things of a spiritual nature or to do with the ancestors, and suddenly into the room will come the Wairua, and little papers on the table may ripple, or people will feel this go, whew, just as something's walked past you and it goes around you. And so if you're ever open to this occurring, it does occur. So what this is exactly, I'm not sure, but it's just another connection with whatever is out there or whoever else is out there. And it's just an acknowledgement. Yeah.
It's so
Wairua.
beautiful. The reason I wanted to say is because when you talked about it, I felt it. I felt it, and it was like I got a whole. I call it God bumps. The other people say like goosebumps or chills.
Oh yeah,
I got it,
like
but it was that's fair. I could feel it, and I think my body even reacted to it. So it was amazing, absolutely amazing. Oh wow. Okay, Gary, thank you so much again. Thank you everyone for joining. Have a beautiful day, and we'll be definitely in touch to do this again and share again. I think it's just magical what you do, and I'm just very grateful for your time and wisdom, and of course all of the unseen beings that are supporting us and playing along with us here as well. It's absolutely beautiful.
Okay, so love and blessings to you all out there. And there's a Māori saying which is beautiful to round off things. I'll call a kia kaha, which is be strong, and then finish it off with aloha nui, which is boundless love. Until we meet again, everybody, thank you, Michael. Thank you so much, and blessings to everyone out there in the great World Wide Web. Tune into the Wood Wide Web, and you'll be right.
Absolutely magical.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. See you. Love, lots of love. See you soon. Oh my God. Wow. Oh my God. That was just incredible. So thank you everyone for joining. Thank you so much to Gary for his time. Thank you everyone for your comments, and put in the comments if you would like to do this again. I mean, even if I'm on my own, I think I'll do it again. It's just absolutely magical. What incredible experience. I want to thank again Nikki Hamid for connecting us with Gary in this just magical realm. I just feel like this guy he's a portal. He is a portal to this, and I can feel it. I'm sure if you've watched it, you're feeling it, and I hope it's inspired you to get outside. I hope it's inspired you to connect with the plant kingdom, with the animal kingdom, and connect with the unseen, however that may present itself for you, because it's so important at this time. And I feel just blessed and honored to be able to be here, to share space with these incredible beings. And this Wisdom Week has just been magical. If you haven't seen the show with Nikki from Tuesday, I think it was, I highly recommend go back, watch that. It was absolutely incredible. And tomorrow we have the final for this stage, the final call for the Wisdom Week, which was with our sister Yania Abi, incredible being again. So that will be tomorrow at 4:44, because we'll be back on European time, 4:44 UK time. Please share this video if you haven't pressed that little share button. Please, for those who need to hear this message, who want to connect with Gary and that magic, please just hit that little share button. And please leave in the comments any experiences that you have, especially around the little people, especially around things that you maybe haven't shared before. Please put it in the comments and let us know, and see that you're not alone. Have an amazing moment. I love you all so much. Until next time. From my heart to yours, the divine in me sees, honors, and loves the divine in you. Namaste. We are. See you soon. Bye.